This is Paul Turner, the immigration browser at Imperium Chambers. Thank you for tuning in. If you have an immigration problem, please get in touch with me. So, farewell Priti Patel, off you go into the sunset missed by, well, I'm not sure who, certainly not the migrants who you have targeted with your right-wing demography and half-baked plans. It seems only right that we ought to celebrate the successes of Priti Patel, and therefore I thought we could possibly review what might have been the worst Secretary of State for the Home Office has had, and her record. She rather ironically jumping ship rather than being pushed. Having said this, her replacement, who will be the subject of the next video, does not exactly inspire much in the way of confidence, but that's a video for another day. By now everyone will know that Liz Truss is our new Prime Minister, and she has cleared out the cabinet and filled it with her most loyal supporters and friends. So much for keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. I'm sure there may be many in the Tory party unhappy with the top jobs going to Liz's mates, but I'm not a politician, so I don't really care. For our purposes, the big but not unexpected news is that Priti Patel has resigned as Home Secretary. She did this shortly after Liz Truss was announced to have won the Conservative Party election campaign. Undoubtedly she did this to avoid being fired. I would have put money on the fact that she would have been shipped off, if not to Rwanda, then to the backbenches. It was long touted that Miss Patel would be replaced by Suella Braverman, the former Attorney General. We will be doing a separate video on Cruella, Suella herself. But for today we're looking back at Miss Patel's legacy as our Home Secretary. We will recall that she was appointed in July 2019 by Boris Johnson, only some 3 years ago, and what an absolute success she's been, as we will see. Since then, she has managed to combine an astonishingly harsh rhetoric towards migrants, and immigrants, asylum seekers, with achieving very little. She has mostly been all bark and a lot of bark and very little bite. She has spoken and appeared to be obsessed with lowering the number of migrants and asylum seekers entering the United Kingdom, including, as we all know, preventing small boats arriving from France. She even went as far as enlisting the help of the Royal Navy, who have a proud tradition and who are not best pleased at being used as a water taxi service to bring migrants to the UK. On her watch, the number of people arriving in small boats has shot up, surprisingly so. In 2019, some 1,800 were arrived by small boats. By 2021, under her prestigious power, we got it up to 28,526, so well done there. This is a huge increase, which demonstrates that she completely failed at controlling the borders in the way that she wanted to. And this was after Brexit, where we took control of the borders, only we didn't. Another obsession was to remove as many people as possible, either criminals or people without leave to remain. But her plans have been scuppered by Brexit somewhat. The EU failed to agree to UK requests to send migrants back to countries they had travelled through on their way to the UK. And why would they accept them back? Someone dropped a bit of a clanger there, when negotiating the oven-ready Brexit deal. So the next thing to come up was exploring plans to send people to the Ascension Islands, if you can find that on the map, or the Falkland Islands, which is a long way away from here. We laughed about it at the time. Having groped around way around the world, she then came up with a Rwanda plan, which essentially meant paying the Rwandan government, I believe, £120 million to process migrants. Some people might think that's a bung, but I would never go that far. Indeed, she signed an agreement with the government of Rwanda to send asylum seekers to the East African country to have their asylum claims processed, despite it not enjoying the best of human rights records. But hey-ho, human rights isn't exactly her strong point. This plan came the closest to becoming a reality. In fact, I think I even saw pictures of a plane on a runway. But unfortunately for her, it never actually left the runway, and nobody was removed following intervention of the European Court for Human Rights and various lawyers. A judicial review challenging the entire policy is now currently being heard in the High Court. And let's not forget that If she couldn't stop them coming in, let's look at her huge success in removing migrants from the United Kingdom. I'm sure this is something she will boast about for years to come. Let's look at the figures. The number of people who were removed from the United Kingdom in 2010 was around 14,000. In 2019, it had dropped to about 7,000. Last year, it was down to the grand total of 2,761. That's not exactly a stunning example of a successful programme. The numbers simply don't lie. She's failed to remove people in the way that she promised that she would. In fact, I think it was only around just over 100 or 113 asylum seekers were removed in the entire period of 2021. What a legacy, eh? Then, of course, there was the disastrous Afghan and Ukrainian schemes. Delays and dragging of feet meant that many people were unable to flee war zones, and those who have made it here have been in cramped hotels since arriving in the UK from last year. Some people might also feel that she's betrayed those Afghans that helped the British while we were helping to help the previous corrupt Afghan regime by not making it easier for those people to arrive in the UK. The one fact that she does not seem to have mentioned is that actually the Home Office itself has processed a number of asylum claims, and the number that have been processed successfully has gone up dramatically in recent years. For the year ending June 2022, 76% of all first-time asylum claims were successful, and a further 50% were allowed on appeal. The Home Office should surely be proud of this, granting refuge to those people who need it. But they don't, because obviously it doesn't play to the right wing that actually more people are being allowed. Now, rather than investing in the Home Office, and I feel for the people that work there, the reality is about asylum policies that it could have been written on the back of a very small envelope and then subsequently lost, perhaps left in the pocket when the jacket goes to laundry. This is made out by the number of people waiting to have their claims, probably successful claims looking at the statistics, processed. Not only has she not made good on any promises of any value, but the number and speed of claims processed is lamentable. Asylum seekers often have to spend years in limbo whilst they wait for a decision, living in poor quality accommodation and living on meagre payments. So, what has she done about that? What did she do about that? How successful was she? Well, when she came to power, there were 48,000 pending asylum claims. After 3 years of her fantastic rule of the Home Office, there's now 123,000 asylum people waiting for decisions. What a success! Now turning to some historic problems. The Windrush scheme or scandal is another blight. Initially it was the fault of the previous Secretary of State, but she's done little to rectify that, and many people are still waiting for compensation. In reality, she's created a legacy of a mean-spirited and unreasonable Home Office that has endorsed the hostile environment. It is often extremely frustrating and unpleasant having to engage with Home Office decisions, and they often hide behind anonymity, which makes it more difficult to deal with. There is little accountability because you don't know who's written the letter, and doubtless Home Office staff are overworked and under a huge amount of pressure. But this does not excuse the basic lack of humanity that we have often seen. Let's not forget, of course, the asylum seekers that were locked up in Napier Barracks who caught COVID, and the other barracks in Wales that had to be shut. So, farewell, Priti. You could take the time off and go for a small boat ride, or perhaps a little trip to Rwanda. After all, you've paid them £120 million to process exactly 0 claims, so I am sure they will, if anyone is ever, be pleased to welcome you. Who knows, they might even give you the keys to Kigali, that's the capital of Rwanda, and of the future. Unfortunately, her replacement, Suella Braverman, is expected to be even more right-wing, if that is possible, and hard-line. But that's a story for another video, so tune in for the next one and you will see my views on the next Secretary of State for the Home Office. But as I wave you goodbye, I would say goodbye, ta-ta to Priti Patel, and let's hope we don't see you creeping back into government in the future like you did the last time. Thank you very much for watching this video. It's been a pleasure to do it. It's a pleasure to see the back of what I consider to be the worst Secretary of State for the Home Department in around 20 years. And I hope you take care. And if you have an immigration problem, please get in touch with me. Do stay safe. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.